Today is a field trip day. I'm driving down to the Flamingo area of the park, which is, I guess, about 35 miles one way distant from my campground up at Long Pine Key. And I understand it's buggy down there, watching some other YouTubers, Cody and Kelly, for instance, who were there just a couple weeks ago, and they said it was very mosquito-y, so I have my mosquito repellent. Hopefully I'm prepared, but I wanted to see what that was like. And I'm stopping here at the Mahogany Hammock Trail. It's a little, I don't know how long the hike is. I can't imagine it's too terribly long. Looks like it's on a boardwalk. And supposedly this is one of these hammocks, which is a higher section of ground that has pines and hardwood trees on it, and they're surrounded by the lower lying marsh and marsh grass and things, so that's what they call a hammock. Here's an example in the picture of a hammock, and this hammock, Mahogany Hammock, is apparently, as I understand, the only hammock in the area that didn't get logged. So these are old growth trees. And so it's a bit of a unique thing in the park here. I'm going to go out and see what that's all about. Approaching the hammock, you can see it's surrounded by the marsh grasslands, wet down there. And it looks like we're going into a green tunnel up here. I almost expect to see monkeys in the trees in these jungles. It just seems so tropical and like I'm in the middle of the Amazon rainforest or something. Well, not rainforest because it's not particularly rainy here, I don't believe, but it's very dense. But as far as I know, there are no monkeys. Now, there were signs at Silver Springs talking about there being monkeys and not to feed the monkeys, and we never saw any. And I don't know why there are monkeys there. They must have been somebody's pet or something that got released. But haven't seen any such signs here in the Everglades. Since taking this little walk through the Mahogany Hammock, I've learned a little bit more about what makes the Everglades so unique. One of the things that makes it so unique is the fact that it has both temperate and tropical species in it, both flora and fauna. The mahogany tree apparently is one of these anomalies, I guess you could say. Mahogany tree is a tropical tree, so you wouldn't normally expect to find it in Florida, but because of the climate here, it's able to live and grow. It got here probably through the agency of birds that flew back and forth between the Caribbean and even the north coast of South America and South Florida that deposited the seeds through their feces. Apparently this particular hammock wasn't logged, not so much because it got overlooked, but because it wasn't really expected that mahogany trees would be found in the area, so they weren't even looked for, and it just escaped the loggers' attention, fortunately for us, because now we have this untouched, so to speak, hammock to experience and enjoy. They're calling this water here, right at the edge of the hammock, a hammock moat. They say it's formed by the limestone being dissolved by decomposing vegetation from the hammock. The vegetation decomposes, gets into the water, dissolves the limestone, and forms this depression, which becomes a moat, which helps to protect the hammock from approaching fires and provides a habitat for a variety of animals. So isn't that amazing, the way God designed these things just to work together to create the habitat that he wanted to have here. I'm here at Flamingo, and already I can see what they meant by the mosquitoes. I got out of the camper briefly to switch over my battery charge input to my solar panels and already was beset by the creatures, so I've put on some repellent. And I was trying to make sure I got the solar panels into the sun. I usually am looking for shade to park in, but when I'm trying to keep my batteries charged, maybe I'll talk in one of my videos about my solar arrangement. It's new for this trip. Anyway, I'm here at the Guy Bradley Visitor Center. Let's see what this is all about. Checked out the visitor center. Interesting, there's not a whole lot in there, but I did find out about boat tours. I'm thinking I'll take one of their boat tours. They offer two. One of them they call their backcountry boat tour, which takes you back more into the brackish canals and into Coot Bay. The other one is more out here in the Florida Bay, takes you out to some of the keys. But the one that takes you back into Coot Bay is the one where you're more likely to see a crocodile, which I'd kind of like to see. Crocodiles and alligators both live in Everglades National Park, but they apparently live in different portions of the park. The alligators don't like the salt water, so they don't live here in the Florida Bay area. This is where the crocodiles are. The mosquito meter in the visitor center said that the mosquitoes were, bearable. It wasn't enjoyable, so they're not at the lowest level, but they're at the second lowest level, which I think was tolerable or bearable, which is good. And we got the wind blowing, which will help keep them blown away. They had two boat tours. They're both the same price and they're both the same length of time. I decided to take the one out into the bay because the lady said I have a chance of seeing crocodiles there. And she said actually there's a crocodile lying over here in the marina, so maybe I'll go see if I can find him or her, whatever. And then I will possibly see manatees out in the bay. Whereas the one through the canal, I would for sure see crocodiles and various types of birds, but I don't know, this one just sounded a little more like I might see things that I wouldn't otherwise see, like the manatees and dolphins. So that's the one I'm doing. It leaves at 2 o'clock, so I have an hour. I thought this was a barrier of some kind, but no, this is the croc. So he's just lying here, basking in the sun. Now, the visitor center made some points about the differences between alligators and crocs. Alligators have a more blunt, stubby nose, and for eating turtles and things, whereas crocs have a sharper snout, better for catching fish. Alligators tend to have a black skin, crocs have a gray skin. These crocodiles, American crocodiles, are not as aggressive as crocodiles you find in some other parts of the world, and they tend to try to avoid people, but still, you want to stay at least 15 feet away from them. I'm trying to remember what some of the other differences were between alligators and crocodiles. Well, one thing was when you see a eye sticking up and then a little bit of water and then the snout sticking up, that's an alligator. Crocodiles would tend to have their whole face out of the water. I got my voice back almost.
All right, everyone, welcome to Everglades National Park and welcome to Everything to Eat. We do have at least one confirmed chick in this nest for this season. We're not sure if there's more than one. That's just what we've been able to see in the moment. You can see a little bit of black kind of about where its butt is, and that's going to be actually its wing tips. Juvenile ibis are much more brown color, and then they turn white once they become adults. Red mangrove roots are great places for fish to live, to grow, for mangrove crabs, oysters, things like that. And because of all that delicious food, you'll see these birds like herons hopping around the roots trying to grab a snack. What's really cool though is that birds here, most birds do not actually have to fight over food, because the smaller heron will eat the small, tiny fish.
This is another blue
The great
heron.
blue
It's a
heron will be
juvenile.
eating larger fish. And so they'll go looking for fish in different areas, or they don't really have to worry about competing with each other.
Picking up speed to go out into the bay. These guys are right alongside the boat. Small one.
Yes, yes it is. Yep.
Are these different ones?
Probably the same one. You know, they'll shift around a little bit. Oh my God. Such an amazing experience.
Well, Linda, I know you're going to be swimming with dolphins, so you'll get closer to them than I am, but this is still pretty close. Oh, going the other way.
We'll see. We're going to try to do maybe a circle or two, see if they might play with us. So we're going to be going into waves differently. Hold on.
Trying to invite the dolphins to play with us. I guess making some waves and just when I figure I have enough pictures of dolphins, they get really close, and it's kind of hard to resist the urge to continue videoing. So. Of course, when I get the camera on, oh, there you go. Well, that was a treat to see that many dolphins. Reminds me of coming back from Catalina Island last year. Except those dolphins seemed to have somewhere to go. They were just kind of crossing our course and on, whereas these seemed like they wanted to play around a little bit more. So this was more fun. We have other things to see, so we've left the dolphins behind in our
chest if you want to take a peek. But it's always nice to be able to see these out in the wild, you know. We've got a great egret in there, so lots of bill, that white cap with those black feathers behind. One of the rangers here said they look kind of like grumpy old men. Kind of hard hand side. We've got two vultures here in Florida. The turkey vulture, as you can see, has kind of that reddish bald head, and it looks like it's a really dark T with lighter wings going from its body out to its wingtips. Lots of activity today.
This is a brown pelican that's flying by.
Trying to stop it. But you know, before that, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, folks would come down here, specifically if you do see a lot of flooding, probably not. And one of the things that's kind of hard to wrap your brain around, you know, when we think about
The
beaches,
manatees, the seagrass, it needs that certain amount of water though. They're a little bit more flexible with that. It's an overnight kayak trip or a very nice long boat tour. Not this one, where this is not long enough for that, as cool as that would be. We have really important habitat there for our sea turtles. We have 5 different species of sea turtles. Crocodiles need that sandy beaches for their nest.
This is the visitor center. The bulkhead. I think that boat tour was well worth it. Very enjoyable. We filled out the whole hour and a half as well.